Welcome to our 5 on 5. Pleased to be joined today by Oregon House Minority Leader and gubernatorial candidate Christine Drazan. Thank you so much for joining us today. Welcome back to Southern Oregon.
Thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
So you're a state representative from Canby, growing up in Southern Oregon, making your first run for governor. What makes you different from the handful of other Republican candidates you're competing against in this primary?
I have absolutely been in the trenches. I have been advocating for folks across our state, from all corners of our state, to have a better life, and in fact to push back against supermajority single-party control ever since I entered into this process. It's been a privilege to lead. It's been a privilege to stand up for people who need an advocate inside that process.
You've served in the House for the last couple of years, and you're officially resigning from the legislature next week to focus on this gubernatorial run. What's your biggest accomplishment in Salem?
I worked really hard to advocate for all corners of our state. And as House Republican leader, we were actually able to support our legislators from all corners, including the Medford area. Specifically recently, if I could just talk for a second about that, we worked in a bipartisan fashion to support recovery for wildfire victims down here. You know, that work is so critical. Once we know what people experienced and how hard it was for them to navigate all the rules, all the bureaucracy, when it came time to get their permitting done, to rebuild, to maintain our manufactured housing that's so critical for affordable housing in the region. And we all worked in a bipartisan manner to get that done. Throughout COVID, we were able to work in a bipartisan manner when we were talking about relief packages and support for Oregonians as they were going through those difficult days.
A lot has happened in Salem the last few years, as you well know. During your tenure, walkouts, delay tactics, calls for the censuring of multiple Democrats. Is there anything you would have done differently?
I would have won more battles. I would have had more Republicans elected. I would have had more balance inside that process. The thing that Oregonians have to know is that Oregon is broken because we've had a decade of decline as we have seen Democrats take control of every part of our government. This is not by accident. The challenges we face, the tax burden, the mess that is our schools, that is what single party control looks like. And if I could have done something differently, it would have been to elect more Republicans, to get more folks into that building, to restore accountability and balance. That's why we saw government overreach from Kate Brown. We need more balance in our state right now.
We're going to take a quick commercial break. We'll have much more in just a moment. Stay with us. Welcome back to our 5 on 5. Again, we're here with Oregon House Minority Leader and gubernatorial candidate Christine Drazan. Forgive the broadness of this question, but what would your priorities be if elected governor?
Absolutely. I appreciate that question. I think Oregonians deserve to know this. I am committed to working on our schools. Now, when I say this, our graduation rates remain among the worst in the nation. But the issue here is not necessarily that our kids have struggled. It's that our system has failed them. We've lowered graduation standards. We have left them behind throughout this COVID response. We have got to improve our schools. They are a mess. You have got to also look at affordability in our state. It's too expensive to buy homes. It's getting less and less expensive for us to be able to put food on the table. And the last thing I want to say about this other issue area is that we absolutely have got to do something about community safety. Too many of our friends and neighbors are sleeping out in the cold. And we have got to get our arms around the question of whether or not law enforcement feels supported. You know, they're having a terrible time recruiting for law enforcement, and we are seeing it. We need to support our law enforcement, and we have got to improve community safety.
I'm looking ahead to the general. I know you, as we talked about, a handful of Republican candidates in the primary that you're facing, but you secured the support of your entire caucus to release a statement repudiating the resolution by Oregon Republican leadership when they called the January 6th insurrection a false flag, a widely debunked conspiracy theory. How damaging is that to Republicans when it's trying to bring more people into the party?
Here's what I can say about running for governor of Oregon. It's got to be about our state. It's got to be about the challenges we face every single day. It's got to be about doing right by our kids. It's got to be about supporting families and resolving the substantial and significant challenges we have here in Oregon. While the House Republican caucus remained unified through a variety of issues in this last cycle, and that was important work that we did together, this race for governor is about Oregonians and the challenges that are facing us here. And the more we focus on those challenges, the more likely we will be able to work together to solve them. We won't get change. We won't get a new direction for our state unless we commit to working together and focusing on these challenges.
If you win the primary, you'll need to win over a lot of non-affiliated voters, a decent number of Democrats as well to win the race for governor. What makes you think you have what it takes to be Oregon's first Republican governor in more than 40 years?
I believe in Oregonians. I'm deeply committed to the future of this state. I'm deeply committed to working together across party lines. All Oregonians deserve change right now. They're across our entire state, no matter what party they're from. This is not the best we can do. Our state deserves better. This beautiful place that all of us call home, we cannot continue to live this way. None of us can live with another 4 years of what we've experienced recently. It's time for change. That doesn't have anything to do with party label, party affiliation. That has to do with vision, respect for Oregonians, a commitment to local control, and the willingness to work across the aisle when it serves Oregonians and not partisan interests.
Thank you so much for taking the time and joining us today.
Thank you.
We'll be right back.